Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org. Consequence and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much, as always, for making your way here, checking out this. You know what to do. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I am so excited today to be talking with James Blake. He's got a brand new record, Friends That Break Your Hearts. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, it's great to see you on here. This record, as usual, is amazing. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I know there's a lot of emotions going all through it. I'm not sure really which one to land on to compliment you on, but it's a compliment just the same.
I take it. I take it as it comes. Thank you.
Before we get into it, kind of backing up just a little bit too. So I know a lot of this was recorded over the past year, but just last year you also gave us that covers EP. Which I don't know if it would set us up for this or if it was his own little capsule thing. And I know it rarely works this way, but I wondered, if by chance that you were working on these sort of simultaneously, did you find you get to a point where, you're finding some of the things you're taking from those covers and applying them to this album here?
Yeah, and also, the covers EP, the before EP, and this album came from one pool of tracks. I mean, the covers EP maybe less so, but the before EP certainly. Initially, I had the idea of making this a much more up tempo, much longer album. But in the end, when I was looking at all of the tracks, the track pool, it just felt like the strongest dance music could really be boiled down to like 4 or 5 tracks. So I just put it out on an EP, and then the rest of it was more songwriting material. So I just, ended up, it grew arms and legs and became this.
I do love, by the way, that you covered Atmosphere. I mean, that's one of my
love that song.
Yeah, favorite songs right there. I get this point that's in this sort of special club of songs that I don't think I could ever learn to play, because for me, when I learn to play a song, you get more personal with it. When you learn a song, you get a lot more personal with it. And there's some songs that have a certain amount of magic that I feel like if I were to ever do something with it, I would lose the magic in the song.
I was really afraid of that, to be honest, with Joy Division. And to some people it has lost the magic, I'm sure. Like, you can't please everyone, and Joy Division, especially Joy Division fans, are going to be super precious about versions of that song and those songs, so I get it. But I think I just did my best to keep the spirit of it. And as long as I just wanted to respect the song. I didn't want to do something too drastic, and keep the kind of, like, translate elements of the production, like the kind of the bell tree sound that happens, the sort of iconic bell tree sound, like that becomes like a piano kind of swoop, and then just trying to retain the mood of the vocals as well, without impersonating him. So just trying to do my best.
What's I guess when I find those spots that I find sort of make its way into this record, what's the song Coming Back on this record, Friends That Break Your Heart, Coming Back. There is a piano in there that almost sounds like you're doing a duet with the past. And I'm not trying to be overly poetic when I say that, but there is something that sounds like you've reached into the past and grabbed that, not changed it, and just met it with the current present. That might be a good place to start with this record. What's happening right there?
Well, Dom Maker, who is a permanent feature of collaboration in all my stuff nowadays, is he was the one who reached into the past and brought that piano part to me. And me and Stara initially wrote to it, and then SZA came in and did her thing, and then we ended up with this song, Starter, and then it just went from there. And it took me a while to figure out how to actually produce it right. But it was, I could tell there was something special from when we first did it.
Yeah. So some of these songs, though, they've been around. I mean, what Say What You Will, you started, it's the first single. You started playing that actually live a couple years ago, right? So, my thought at first was maybe these were all sort of pandemic songs, but they actually do stretch a little bit further back.
A little bit.
Yeah. Was it still able to, I mean, were you still able to, I guess, do all the songs fit within the concept that you sort of hinted at?
Yes, most of them. I mean, some of them are, I mean, there's a couple of love songs on there that are, not about friends breaking your heart. There's also Say What You Will isn't really about friends breaking your heart. But all the subject matters I touch on, I guess friendship and some of those kind of, maybe some of the darker themes are represented in that album title. Also, I think, I mean, one of the working titles for it was Famous Last Words, because I thought it'd be funny to release an album that sounded like I was retiring. But it just didn't suit every song, or like the majority. So, but
yeah, that's so the concept, as you're saying, sort of plays out in the title. I don't know how deep you want to go in that, but why is this the concept?
Well, when I looked back at all the songs I'd written, the track pool for what I had, it became clear that like I'd dwelled more on, in my writing, I'd dwelled more on these difficult friendship situations than I had on love or on anything else. And it just became, I think it felt very relevant to the current state of the world and what a lot of people had been experiencing, like distance from friends, distance from family, distance from everyone. And a lot of my friends were reporting relationships crumbling and like finding it very difficult to keep, their friendships up, essentially, during this crazy moment. And so it just felt very relevant. Friendships really took all types of relationships took a real beating over the over the pandemic. So yeah, and then it just, and then Friends That Break Your Heart came as a title, and it just felt right.
You sort of just blew my mind a little bit right there, because I expected this was something much more personal in a way, but that's something that we've all dealt with. That's, I mean, the amount of, family members that I've sort of had to shut out for now, and friends and on and on. That's been crazy. That's been so nuts about all of this.
And like, some people just didn't have a place in our new lives.
Yeah.
In the new reality of our lives, they were just people who just didn't make it. I mean, metaphorically didn't make it. There are also people who didn't make it actually, but
yeah. No, I was gonna say I'm personally, for me, I was more surprised. It's almost like I could deal with my family members on the political side of things, when it came to Trump or anything else. But when it came to the pandemic and the vaccine, that ended up being surprisingly the dividing line for all of us, I think.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially I think in this country, there's a lot of things in the last few years that have unnecessarily, probably unnecessarily torn families apart based on their opinions on certain things. It's quite sad, and it's often media fueled. I mean, it's just not necessary a lot of the time, but it, did bring out some aspects of people's character that we didn't see before, I guess. And sometimes you see something in someone and you go, "Oh, didn't know that was there."
There's a certain small amount of ignorance is bliss when it comes to relationships, especially family.
I think that's true. I think, it's some people you just don't want to know everything about. Once you open that door.
So I want to jump back to this first single, Say What You Will, which comes with this great video, which also co-stars Phineas in it, and a quote that you include when comparison is the thief of joy. And I do feel like you're painting something there. I mean, I don't want to say what's obvious and what's not. This is coming, just from
Yeah.
my take on it all. But I do know about the comparisons, what Phineas does, what Billy
Mhm.
has done, what you have done, the comparisons to each other, comparisons that you've probably got throughout your career to other artists.
Mhm.
Is that what's exactly going on in this video?
Well, I mean, some people's first reaction to that video was, "Oh, but James, like, you shouldn't compare yourself to Phineas. Like, you're good. Like, you're successful. You've done well. Your music's very nice." And it's like, no, thank you, but that's not what this. That's not the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make in the video is that it doesn't matter how successful you are. There's going to be someone who presses your buttons, who you're jealous of, who seems to just get everything right. Everything that you get wrong, they get right, and it just pulls at your, it just presses your buttons basically. And I think I'm sure most people have been through that, have got someone they can think of who is like, they feel like they're in competition with, and that person doesn't even know that person doesn't even give a shit about what you think, and they're just living their lives and doing their thing, and they're probably becoming more successful because of their lack of doing that, their lack of comparing themselves with other people. Or maybe they're also comparing that, and however successful they get, they've got somebody else who they're doing the same thing with. So I think it was just a commentary on that, really. And the way we can apply that to Instagram, the way we can apply it to somebody's, they're face tuning all their photographs, but they're more beautiful than me, or I can't attain those beauty standards, or I can't attain, their lifestyle standards, and it's all just bullshit. And I guess it's not, it's not a new concept for me to say that. It's not like I'm the first person who said, "Oh, maybe don't compare yourself to everyone. It's going to make yourself unhappy." But I do think it's valid. It's a worthwhile concept for a song.
You on your Instagram, being okay with where you're at and fuck them all. That's the quoting you right there, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I love your.
And by the way, it's not to say that like aspiration is bad, or because I know, like, in this country there's a to some degree there's a healthy like feeling of aspiration, and like I want to achieve a lot, and and everything, but it's just, I think it can be that to a certain extent, and then it becomes unhealthy, and then there's a kind of it becomes a burden on the psyche.
Right. Well, I also want to compliment you on that song, and you do this, and you've done this throughout your career. Your choice of where a song goes is always so surprising. Watching you perform that one live, say what you will. It was one of the first times I realized, at least the way I see it, that it seems like so much of your decision on where a song can go is so much based on feeling, because it's not traditional. I mean, you've got verses and you've got hooks or choruses or whatever, but you take these diversions, these left turns vocally, and it's almost like what someone would do in their, like, I'm going to say it, a basic songwriter would take those moments in their bedroom and then smooth them out, filter them out later. And that's not always the case with you. I don't know if you can speak to that, but it's one of the things I respect most about your writing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think it's probably one of the things I've been most insecure about, if anything, is the fact that my songs often get comments of like, "Oh," instead of the usual. I don't know. Like I sometimes worry that the twists can throw people off, or make my music less accessible, and like, oh, then then I'm not, it's like, then I can't be I can't be at a certain, I can't be in that group of accepted songwriters, or I can't be, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of the things that has led me to not be accepted, at the same time as one of the things is that's granted me complete acceptance with certain people, and like, so it's been a kind of and it might be the thing that hinges like people's acceptance. It kind of like divides, it kind of sorts certain people from others, you know, like, oh well, if they like that moment, then they're open to other creative endeavors, and if they don't, then maybe they're more straight-laced and they like this kind of thing, or maybe they're more like into pop and that's just what they do. I don't worry so much about that now, but that's definitely made me insecure in the past, is this feeling of like the way I naturally do things kind of puts some people off. And it's like, if you apply that to just general life, it's like, you can't walk around thinking that. You just got to be yourself, haven't you, really? But I remember Rick Rubin, we were doing this podcast, and he said, he was like, your greatest skill is collage. He's like, that's the thing you're best at. And I love it when you do that. I don't really care about this traditional song structures. I just want to hear you be yourself and do these crazy experiments. And he does, I mean, sorry, I don't think he said he doesn't care about the rest of it, but he was like, I think you doing what you do best is doing that. And I was like, well, that's cool. That's cool for someone like that who's seen all these records go by and produced a lot of them, to say that made me feel very accepted. Yeah, I don't know why it set me off on like a ramble, but you know, it's sweet when someone says that that's what they actually like about it. There's the interesting Brian Eno has these flashcards. They're called oblique strategies.
I know those, yeah.
Right, and one of the cards is, take the element that is the most embarrassing element of this song and amplify it. So that's what I've got to do, basically.
I was going to use your quote there and fuck them all, you know. It's
yeah, man.
To go back there, but seriously, that's like, I could say I can't always sing along with you like in the shower, you know, if your music comes on or whatever. But
yeah.
But that's why. Well, I'm trying to paint pictures.
No, I mean, you've painted the picture vividly. It's beautiful. It's living.
But at the same time, I think that's why I keep coming back. I mean, there are a lot of basic songs out there, you know, and they come and go, but there's always something so much more interesting. I mean, the songs that I love the most have some version of weird to them, you know, and I say that in a broad scope, but that, you know, and the classics, those are the ones that survive. Those are the ones that make it, you know, so the compliments.
I agree with you, man. It's always been my favorite thing, is somebody who, you know, who's daring. Otherwise you're just, I don't know. Yeah, I enjoy daring music, basically.
There's another song on here, Funeral. And you're exercising your, I don't know if it's soprano or whatever. Actually, I didn't have it in my earbuds at first. The first time I heard it, you know, I just had it on a speaker and I thought you were duetting with Feist for a second. And something that you were doing upper register was so like that. And again, it's one of those moments where, you know, I come to appreciate your range, because you know you seem to have this natural baritone, but kind of pulling it in there. And I don't know, when do you know that it's time for that? Because again, it seems like it comes so natural, like it's a feeling for you. But is there a moment, you know, it's like, oh, I got to take it up here?
Interesting. Well, I mean, there's always there is a classic technique of like doing the low verse and then the high chorus. It's, you know, it's like, it's quite Adele, actually. You know, someone like you follows that kind of framework. And a lot of Adele songs where she belts the chorus and it's just like, it hits even harder because she goes up the octave as well. That's something that I guess happens in Funeral, except not to the effect of someone like you. But you know what I mean?
Right.
I do my little version of that. But yeah, that I think that happens, and also, and I don't really know when to use the lower notes. I think actually I didn't really start singing in my lower register until quite recently. Um, I was always doing falsetto almost on every song, and I think I just got a bit sick of being in that range because it doesn't falsetto is lovely, but it doesn't always convey what I want to say. Um, it can feel quite disembodied, maybe sometimes. Like it's not. I don't speak like that.
Mm.
You know, um, it would be weird if every time I had a conversation, I went into this. You know what I mean? It's like something about automatically, as soon as I sing, just going, "Na, na, na." It's just like, that's not actually, I think that's in a way affected. Um, I think having a broader range of like what represents your actual vocal range and maybe the way you normally speak as well, is maybe more natural. But I was imitating all the female singers that I grew up listening to who had crazy high voices, and actually, you know, not just female singers, just people who had crazy ranges, who often existed at that range. So like Prince,
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo, Joni Mitchell, uh, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Bee Gees, still like all these people who just, that's just where they lived. Some, a lot of the time. So, but I think over my course of my career, I've just wanted to be a bit more, I don't know, just like explore the other parts of my voice. So
That more natural side. Thank goodness you just didn't walk around jumping into falsetto all the time. I'm pretty sure you'd be looked at
I
as a
wouldn't
little
have any,
crazy.
I wouldn't have any friends. Let's be honest.
While you're mentioning other artists, we should also throw some love to the guests that you do have on this record. You've
Yeah,
got a
man.
few. SZA's on here, Suave,
Yeah,
Monica Martin.
yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything? How did they end up specifically? Do you hear their voices in your head as you're writing songs, or does that ever happen when you're thinking about guests?
Well, the SZA one happened in the same room. The JID one happened over Zoom actually, because we were in lockdown. He sent over. So I made the beat for him. I made the beat hoping it would be on his record. Actually, because I was making stuff for him. And we made a bunch of stuff, and then some other stuff I think he may have taken for his record. I'm not sure. That's not been confirmed yet. But this one, he was like, I don't think this one's going to fit, but I really love what it is. And I was like, well, I'll take it. I'll put it on my album, because I had a majority of the record already done by that point, and I was like, or kind of confirmed. And I was like, oh, that would sound good on my record, I think. And then I just had this rap feature, this amazing JID verse, but with no there's no chorus, there's no like structure to the song. It was just like I didn't know how to make it into a song. And then Jamila was like, why don't you just put Suave on it? Like this rapper who I've been working with for years, who is, well, a couple of years, he's amazing, and he's also from Atlanta. And he's friends with JID. He'd been working with JID already. So I was like, well, of course, makes so much sense. So I sent it to Suave, and Suave did the verse in 30 minutes and sent it back.
Amazing.
Like it was like 11 o'clock at night. He was already in the studio. I texted him. He was like, what? Yes, of course I'll do that. And, we've done a bunch of stuff together before, but I've never asked him to just be on one of my songs for a record or anything like that. And he just turned it around in half an hour and sent it back. And it was exactly the take that's on there now. And it really, to me, it was masterful what he did. It's like, it sounds like early Eminem, like the way he's like playful with it, and he conjures this whole like visual story, and then it's like at the end like in his mind, like in his story he's concocted, I shoot them both in the head, and then he's made it all up, and he's like, oh, maybe I am crazy. It's like just that whole thing. It's just like, that is just, you don't expect to hear that on one of my albums. I was like, that's perfect. You're a genius. Thank you. I'll tell you when, I'll let you know when it's done. So it's just moments like that, man. It's like collaboration is just so fun because, you know, what's the alternative? Me just sitting in my room, just being like, you know, like staring at the walls, just being, you know, being self-critical. It's like, no, we had to open this process up at some point because I was going to go nuts.
It's perfectly placed in the record too. I mean, again, I didn't, you know, the first time you hear it, you don't know what's coming, and everything, I mean, I not just that moment, everything about this record, it is just so perfectly done. And
Thanks,
I know you got the tour coming up. I'll quickly ask, I mean, what does that look like? Because everything's different these days.
Yeah. Well, the tour is looking like a lot of COVID tests, and you know, just going wherever we can for as long as we can. I mean, I just want to make sure we do every show, basically. And I want to do it safely. I want to make sure my crew's safe. I want to make sure my band, the you know, the audience are all safe, and just try and bring the best show possible. And I think it's going to be pretty overwhelming to see that many people in front of me after probably the most people I've been around is 2 or 3. You know, so yeah. I mean, I haven't even been going to parties. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've basically just been in the house, or just, you know, going for hikes, or going, you know, like doing sessions. But the idea of doing a show is just seems insane. I can't picture it almost.
Culture shock on the way.
Yeah, it's going to be a shock.
I look forward to all of it. And again, this record, it's so beautiful. Friends that break your hearts, which you can see on the merch of your shirt right there, nicely placed for the interview.
I actually ran out of t-shirts. That's why I'm wearing this. Got a big box of merch just sitting there. So yeah. Perfect.
James, thank you so much for the music, and especially thanks for taking the time to talk about it today.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Kyle. Like what you're doing. Appreciate it.